Hi everybody and welcome back to Gosport Radio. Now, as you can probably see, I'm at home at the moment, having to work from home because I've got so much work on at the moment. But I thought I'd do this video today. And the reason I thought I'd do it, because what we're going to talk about today is basically the goth music scene. And a lot of what we're going to talk about is historically. And the reason I thought I'd do this is my 8-year-old daughter, Jemima, came to me the other day. I think it was about a week, 2 weeks ago. And she said, Dad, or Daddy, I can't remember, it's probably Dad, said, I want to become a goth. I thought, oh my God, please, don't do this. Don't do this to me. I'm going to get so much aggro over this. Okay, I thought, right, how do I tell my wife? She's going to go mad that she wants to go goth. Because like a lot of people judge other people, whether they mean to or not, they always do. Okay, and if we look at it and think about it, okay, everybody has a view on goths. You know, I've got no problem with people that are into that scene. I used to go out clubbing with a lot of them. I remember back in the day, early part of the 2000s, late 90s, I used to go to the Dungeon in Southampton, which, for those that don't know the Dungeon in Southampton or have never been to Southampton, it's a nightclub, or it was a nightclub, which basically played just rock and metal music. So you would have the likes of Iron Maiden, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, all that type of stuff being played. Okay, and then obviously they would go in there, gothic clothing. So men, you would have long black leather trench coats, all that type of stuff. The dark makeup. You know, women generally wearing, like the gloves going all the way up their arms, big black dresses, and that's what people think goths are at the end of the day. Is that actually true? Or is that a misconception? Okay, so when she told me, I thought, right, I'm on my way to the tattooist because I'm getting a new tattoo done. And I thought, right, before I go in, I'll tell my wife, right? Because it's a lot safer. I'm not going to get punched. I'm not going to get a slap. And she's not going to tell me, oh, you've been trying to poison my baby girl. Any of this type of stuff. I don't have to listen to any of that. Right, so I told her over the phone, and she goes and says to me, but she doesn't know what goth is. And my wife was automatically thinking that. But is that true? Is that actually true? Because the reality is, where does the goth or the gothic music scene actually come from? Because it's not a modern day thing. You've got to go back to the 1970s. Okay, and it was a bit of a history lesson for myself when I actually started looking into it, even though I used to go out with these people. But like I've already said, I used to go to them places with them. Even, I stood out like a sore thumb, to be honest. I had black trousers on, like work trousers. I'd have a white shirt on, I'm the type of person that you would expect to see in a general nightclub. But I was going to these types of places instead, mainly because my cousin used to go out. I had a few friends that were into that scene and everything, so I'd go with them. Even my sister used to go down that. But the fundamental thing is, what is goth? And I'm going to read you this bit of text, and it says, goth music is a dark, atmospheric genre rooted in post-punk. So you've got to remember, it's about punk, basically punk music at the end of the day, but slightly twisted, characterized by melancholic melodies, introspective lyrics, and a rich, brooding aesthetic. Goth music, also known as gothic rock, emerged in the late 1970s and early 80s from the post-punk movement in the UK. So it is a British thing, not American thing, British thing. Okay, with pioneering bands like Bauhaus, Siouxsie and their Banshees, Joy Division. Okay, who after their, I think it was their lead singer died. I think it was about 23 when he died. Okay, and they became another band and did the very famous song Blue Monday, for anybody that doesn't know. And one of the most famous bands, but it's still going to this day, and they've got a song in the charts at the moment as it happens, and I can't remember who they've done it with, which is The Cure. Really famous young female singer, and I can't remember her name at the moment. Okay, shaping the sound and the style, it is defined by dark, emotive lyrics, exploring themes such as mortality, its eternal introspection, and it goes on and on and on. I'm not going to read it all. You know, using guitars, bass lines, and eerie synthesizers. Now you've got to remember, the synthesizer was the big thing from the 80s. It's where you get your electro from, which did come into the 70s as well. Before anybody says anything, okay, you've got to look at the 70s as well for that. So the reality is, it's not about metal, or it's not about heavy rock or anything like that. It is a post-punk movement at the end of the day. You know, so when you start looking at who are the 30 greatest goth bands, you're not going to think of these. And this is one of the things I said to my wife yesterday. Okay, so who are the top goth bands of all time? Okay, and you're not, if I started reading these off, I doubt that any of these, well, they would have performed in the 90s, I know some of them did, but they never started in the 90s or the 2000s. Okay, so you got Bauhaus, or however you pronounce it. I do apologise to them. I know I pronounced it incorrectly. Okay, I believe they started in the 1970s. You've got The Cure that are still performing now, like I said a few minutes ago. They've got a single in the charts at the moment. Okay, but they've done with another singer. You've got the Sisters of Mercy. You know, virtually all of this is British artists. Okay, Siouxsie and the Banshees, I think they stopped performing in around about 1996. Okay, you've got Typo Negative, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Joy Division. You know, this is all post-punk artists at the end of the day. Now, this is the one that surprised me, and I'll tell you what, somebody had a right go at me for this, for even saying this. Depeche Mode. Depeche Mode are classified as a goth band. You know, you see them, you know, if you look at any of the videos on the likes of YouTube or any of the streaming platforms, okay, and look at their videos, you are not going to think, you know, me certainly, I would not think in a million years they are a goth band, but they are, you know, and they had some massive hits in the 1980s, you know, like probably top 10 hits at the end of the day. And then you've got the likes of Christian Death and London After Midnight. So I can understand why a lot of people go down the route of moving into the goth, movement, because some of these bands, they created fantastic music. Okay, and some of them you can actually argue, are they really goth? You know, when you think of somebody like Marilyn Manson, you couldn't argue, you know, just look at him on stage, the way he presents himself. Alice Cooper is another one. Okay, you look at them and you think automatically they're gothic. the way they present themselves on stage and everything, whether it's in their videos. And let's not forget, Marilyn Manson has done Northern Soul. And I've completely forgotten the name of the song that he did, but he did a song which would have been it was originally released in the 1960s, Tainted Love. Okay, sang Tainted Love, which is a Northern Soul track. Okay, does that make him Northern Soul? No, he's not. He's rock stroke, metal stroke, goth at the end of the day. And that's what you've got to remember. So when you go and look at these bands, okay, if you go and look at them from the late 70s and early 80s, there was no bang, 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 bang. Okay, a lot of this stuff, like Joy Division and Depeche Mode, and even to a degree, The Cure, there was nothing heavy about them. They were actually quite light. But the music was stuff that virtually anybody could go and listen to. Because I've seen my mother, my mum, her music life started in the 1960s with the Beatles and went through the 70s and 80s. So I could see her listening, probably out of all of them, probably the likes of Joy Division and Depeche Mode. That's where I could actually see her listening to that type of music, if I was to be brutally honest. But then you've got to think, right, if I'm going to go goth, I've got to start thinking about the clothing. And this is where you look at it, because a lot of people think, right, if it's going to be a girl, it's going to be in a dress, it's going to have black makeup, maybe even purple, okay, lighting up her face, dark hair, primarily black hair, where my daughter's got a bit of a problem because she hasn't got dark hair. She's got light, sandy kind of coloured hair. It's not blonde. But what can be considered is goth at the end of the day. We're going to look at the goth clothing as well. And I spoke to this lady, really nice lady, at the tattooist, and she said, "Oh, absolutely brilliant. An 8-year-old going to go goth." Because she said to me, and I remember her saying it to me before I had to get my tattoo done. She said, at the end of the day, if you go into that scene, it's just the alternative. There's no such real thing as being gothic. You just want to be slightly different to the mainstream. So one way to look at it, especially for an 8-year-old, okay, I shouldn't really talk about my daughter like this, but it could be a case of wearing leggings or jeans, okay, and then wearing some kind of t-shirt, which is going to probably be black at the end of the day, with some rock band on it, whether it's like, got to look at my childhood, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, you could look at The Cure, they're the main ones. If you're looking on Shen, they're on there. Green Day's on there, and that's how you actually go down that road without upsetting anybody. And you could get like a nice little necklace with a cross on at the end of the day, be a bit religious and everything. So when you're actually looking at the goth movement, there's nothing really extreme. You don't have to have all the piercings. You don't have to have all the tattoos. If you don't want that, you do not have to do that. The thing about the gothic movement is you're just slightly different to everybody else. You don't want to be the same as everybody else. Because if we were all the same, we were all listening to the same kind of music, we were all dressing the same, life would be pretty boring. And that's the fundamental of this movement, of the movement. So there is some really great music out there, and to be honest, there are new bands coming out all the time. through working on the radio myself, even though I don't do any of the shows, okay, I get inundated with all of this type of stuff. The amount of, and if you want, I can put it up, you know, give some reviews on it. I don't generally do it, okay, on punk music and on rock and on heavy metal. You know, the new bands that are coming out, they're not big heavy hitters, and there's some great foreign music. I've got to list it because I can actually find it. That's the one. Sharon Den Adal, okay, who's part of a band. She's the lead singer of a band called Within Temptation. Now, a couple of years ago, she sang it. I'm trying to think where they did the concert. I've got a feeling it was in Holland. I believe they're a German band, and she got on stage Amy Lee. Now, for anybody that doesn't know who Amy Lee is, that's terrible to say. You can think of that. Amy Lee is the lead singer of Evanescence. Absolute quality. Okay, one of the best singers out there. And I'm sorry for anybody that doesn't like me saying it. She is. Okay. And there was another one. I don't know if I've written it down. And it doesn't look like I've got it on here at the moment. But if you want to listen to some of that type of stuff, go and Google her. Absolutely fantastic, the stuff that they do. And it's all in English as well, which makes it even better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it short here for today. Okay. So obviously, if you are new to the channel, if you could please subscribe, I would appreciate it, because it makes it a lot easier for me to get this type of stuff out to people. But for now, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you all again a bit later.